profit maximizing behavior for a firm under perfect competitive market. So the concept of profit maximizing behavior of a firm or for a perfect competitive market can be analyzed by using the two approaches. The first approach is the total cost approach, and the second approach is the marginal revenue and marginal cost approach. So under the total cost approach, under this approach, a firm maximizes profits at the level of output and the place where the difference between the total revenue and total cost is at maximum. So total revenue minus total cost is at maximum is where now we consider the way the firms maximizes profit. So profit is given by taking total revenue minus total cost, and total revenue is equal to price times quantity. So suppose we have this kind of a table here. We have the quantity in the left hand side and we have the profit. So the total revenue is defined by taking the price times quantity. That is, we have to take the price, that is 50 times 1. That will give you 50. But also the profit is given by taking the total revenue minus total cost. Is whereby we have the total revenue, that is 50 minus 60, which give you exactly which is equal to 10. So the same applies when we find the profit in the next in the second bracket of the table, is where we take 100 minus 80, that is 20. Again, we take 150 minus 120, that is 30. The same applies to the next bracket of the table. So we will be having 70, 105, 30, 28, 20, 15, and 8, as you can observe. So remember that the firm maximizes profit at the level of output and the place where the difference between the total revenue and total cost is at maximum. So when you try to observe clearly the table, from this table here, at 5 units of output, a firm maximizes profit. At 5 units of output, a firm maximizes profit. Because at this level, a firm obtains a maximum profit of 105 Tanzania shillings in comparison to other levels of output. So remember now, the firm maximizes profits at this level of 105 units because it gives you the highest. It gives you the maximum profit compared to other profit that are obtained from different units. So at 5 units is whereby now a firm maximizes profit, the highest profit. That is the highest one compared to other profits. So as you can observe the area over there, so the 5 units of output gives you the profit of 105. And remember, the total revenue is given by taking price times quantity. Where now we take the price, that is 50 times 5, that will give you 250. So graphical, we can demonstrate this graphically. So at the left hand side, so we'll be having we'll try to draw the total revenue, the total cost curve. So we have the total cost, and whereby we have the quantity that are cut across at the middle point A, and we have also another lines over there, as you can observe. So here we have the total revenue. So as you can observe now, the total revenue curve cut across the total cost, the point where show the maximization of profit under PCM, under perfect competitive market. And we have the point A, B, and C. So here we have the quantity 1, we have the quantity 2, and quantity 3. So a shaded area there indicates out a firm's loss, whereby unshaded area on the area ABC represent out a profit. So the shaded area represents a firm loss, where unshaded area on the upper side that is ABC, represent out the firm's profit. So normal firms maximize profit whereby we observe to see the total revenue line cut across the total cost at point C. So the point C present out the maximization of profit. Remember, the points where the output Q1 is whereby firms get loss. Why firms get loss? It's because the total cost is greater than the total revenue. So we observe to see the point A present out that at quantity Q1 it present out a loss because the total cost is below the total revenue. So the line of the total cost cuts across is below the total revenue. But at point Q star, at point B, that's present out to point B, present out a firm profit because the total revenue cut across it's because the total revenue is above or is greater than total cost. So as you can observe, the line the total revenue is greater than the total cost. And at output Q3, that is presented at the point C, is a firm's profit which is equal to 0. And when a firm's profit is equal to 0, this is because the total revenue is equal to the total cost. So at output Q3 is whereby there is a firm's profit which is equal to 0 because the total revenue is equal to total cost. As you can observe, that is located at point C over there. So after looking the maximization of a profit graphical, so it will be better now we jump to another concepts on how we can identify the maximization of profit by using the second approach, that is the marginal revenue and the marginal cost approach. So under this approach, a firm's profit maximizing behavior can be explained in the short run and long run period. The profit maximizing output using the marginal revenue and marginal cost curves include that if the marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost and there is an increase in production, will be increasing profit. So if the marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, an increase in production will decrease. But also if the marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, an increase in production will decrease the profit. So the profit maximizing rule is given by taking the marginal cost, which is equal to marginal revenue. So if the marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost, an increase in production will increase profit. This is because the revenue that is obtained cover the cost, so there will be an increase in production. So also the concept of marginal analysis can be viewed in the way that if the marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost, output should be expanded. This means that it is possible to increase output. It is possible to increase output because you are capable of employing the new laborers. Marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, profit are maximized. Marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, output should be reduced. And this is because there is no revenue obtained than all the increasing of cost of production. So there is no way to increase or to employ new laborers or to seek to expand the production. So the firm's profit maximizing behavior that a firm's under short run equilibrium is that in the short run, the firms under perfect competitive market maximize profit given the following condition. The first one is that the marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue, and the second one, price is greater or equal to average total cost, and the third one is that the marginal cost must cut the marginal revenue curves from the below. So a firm in the short run earns what is known as a supernormal profit. So under perfect competitive market, firms in the short run earn a supernormal profit. This is because there will be some few number of firms that are competing to each other. So it's where now the marginal cost must cut across the marginal revenue curve from the below, and where the marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue, and where the price is greater or equal to average total cost. So under these conditions now, direct us to draw the graphical of maximization of profit under PCM market in the short run period. So when you try to sketch out the graph, our graph will look like this. So we are trying to draw out the output that presented on the left hand side. We have the revenue cost or the price, the PO, P1 and P2, and we have the quantity, the output, that is Q1, Q2 and Q3. So we try to draw the marginal cost that's going upward like that. Then after that we draw out the average variable cost that is cut across at that below line. Then we draw out again the average total cost that goes at that point over there. Let me draw it clearly. So we have the marginal cost and we have so as you can observe, so we have the average variable cost and we have the average total cost. That are cut across at that point over there, as you can observe. So the average total cost and the average variable cost, and is where now the average revenue is equal to marginal revenue, the price is equal to average total cost, that is break-even point, and we have also the shutdown point over there. The producer actually produces and enable to cover only the cost of production. So we have the output. We have also the shaded area upward at below between P2 and P1. That the shaded area over there represent out. We have also the shaded area over there. So remember that the profit maximizing behavior is where marginal cost cut across the marginal revenue. So normally the profit is maximized at Q3. The profit is maximized at Q3 where the marginal cost cut across the marginal revenue. But the output below Q star, this means that at Q2 and Q1, marginal revenue normally is greater than marginal cost. Marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost. It means that firms may increase revenue by increasing output toward the Q1. So below the Q3, that is Q2 and Q1, marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. It means that a firm may increase revenue by increasing output. At the output below the Q3, marginal revenue is less than marginal cost. This means that at 0 Q1, it means that a firm's additional revenue is less than the firm's additional cost. So the firms will have to reduce output towards the Q3 in order to maximize profit. So in this case now, the equilibrium output at which the firms maximize profit is at Q3, where the marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. So at output below Q1, marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, as I told you. It means that the firm's additional revenue is less than the firm's additional cost. And the firms will have to reduce output towards the Q3 in order to maximize profit. And remember, if the marginal revenue are less, this means that the company or the firms has failed to attain profit. So it cannot have a capital, more enough funds to employ or to sink to apply advanced technology to increase production. So there will be redundancy of labor and so forth. Let's talk about the long run equilibrium. The long run profit maximizing condition under PCM, under perfect competitive market, is that the long run marginal revenue is equal to long run marginal cost. The long run marginal cost must cut a long run marginal revenue curve from below. The price is equal to the long run average cost curve. So in the long run, firms may end just a normal profit because there is entry of many firms in the market. Remember, characteristics of a perfect PCM market is that it's catalyzed with many buyers and many sellers. So to make out a higher profit in the long run is something that is something that is actually not reflectable under what is known as PCM. So there will be a normal profit. So when you try to demonstrate this graphical, we have the revenue, the cost at Tanzanian shillings, and we have the output. So we first draw the long run marginal cost, and then we draw out the long run average total cost, which cut across at the upper side below the long run marginal revenue. And as you can observe now, the average total cost is upward below what is known as the long run average revenue or long run marginal revenue. So long run average revenue is equal to long run marginal revenue. So the long run average total cost cut across upward. This means that the long marginal revenue is below. So long average total cost is upward, or the marginal cost is upward below the long run marginal revenue. So this proves that the long run equilibrium of a perfect competitive market that firms makes a normal profit. So as you can observe at price star. So from this graph over here, the long run marginal cost is equal to long run marginal cost. The long run average total cost is equal to the long run average total cost, and the long run average revenue is equal to long run average revenue, and the long run marginal revenue is equal to long run marginal revenue. So normal, a firm maximizes profit because at this level of the long run marginal cost is equal to the long run marginal revenue. So that is how we demonstrate easily the concept under a long run maximization of PCM market, of perfect competitive market. So something to remember is that under PCM market, long run maximization profit is actually the firms makes a normal profit because of entry of many firms. And it's where now, as you can observe now, the long run average total cost cut across at between the long run average revenue margin revenue.